Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift back in time. Not to the glittering palaces of pharaohs or the grand tombs of nobles, but to the sun-baked mud brick huts nestled along the fertile banks of the Nile. Imagine the relentless Egyptian sun beating down on your skin, the scent of dust and damp earth rising from the river, and the distant braying of a donkey. This isn't a luxurious journey, mind you. You'd probably be perpetually sweaty, covered in fine sand, and constantly worried about your next meal. Your social standing would be, well, let's just say you wouldn't be on any ancient Egyptian VIP lists. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake with the first blush of dawn, not to an alarm clock, but to the insistent chirping of birds and the distant sounds of your village stirring. Your bed is a simple mat on the packed earth floor of your small mud brick home. The air is already warm, even before the sun fully clears the horizon, promising another day of relentless heat. Your first conscious thought, like every day, revolves around the river, the Nile. It is your lifeline, your provider, your entire world. Without it, you are nothing. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, life is inextricably linked to the annual inundation of the Nile. This common historical fact, the flooding of the river, isn't a disaster, it's a blessing, the very pulse of your existence. Each year, around July, the river begins to swell, carrying rich black silt from the highlands of Africa. By September, it overflows its banks, transforming the narrow strip of fertile land into a vast, muddy lake. This is the time of Akhet, the inundation. You don't farm then. You might be conscripted for state labor, or simply wait, hoping the waters recede at the right time, leaving behind that precious, life-giving soil. When the waters finally recede, usually by October, they leave behind a thick layer of incredibly fertile black mud. This is the time of Pare, the growing season. You, along with your entire family and village, rush to plant your crops, barley for bread and beer, emmer wheat for more bread, and various vegetables like lentils, onions, and garlic. Imagine the urgency, the collective effort. You work from dawn till dusk, your back aching, your hands calloused, knowing that your very survival depends on the success of this harvest. There are no tractors, no complex machinery, just simple wooden plows pulled by oxen, and the sheer force of human will. The tools you use are rudimentary: a wooden hoe, a simple sickle made of flint or bronze, baskets woven from reeds. You don't own the land you work. It belongs to the pharaoh, to the temples, or to wealthy nobles. You are a peasant farmer, a fella, working the land in exchange for a portion of the harvest, or simply for the right to live there. Your life is dictated by the seasons, by the river, and by the demands of those above you in the social hierarchy. It's like being part of a giant, ancient agricultural co-op, but with way more forced labor and no profit sharing. The harvest, Shemu, usually takes place in March or April. This is the culmination of months of back-breaking labor. You cut the stalks with your sickle, bundle them, and then thresh the grain, often by driving donkeys or cattle over it. The grain is then winnowed, tossing it into the air so the wind carries away the lighter chaff, leaving the heavier kernels. Imagine the dust, the sweat, the relentless sun as you perform these tasks, knowing that every single grain represents food for your family or tribute for the state. A significant portion of your harvest, a common historical fact, goes to the pharaoh as taxes. Scribes, the pharaoh's educated officials, would come to your village, meticulously measuring your yield and demanding their share. You have no say in the matter. You simply hand over what is due, knowing that failure to comply could result in severe punishment. This tax system, often collected in grain, was the backbone of the Egyptian economy, funding the lavish lifestyles of the elite, the construction of temples and tombs, and the maintenance of the state. Your diet is simple, repetitive, and largely vegetarian. Bread, made from barley or emmer wheat, is your staple. You eat it at every meal, often dipped in a simple stew of lentils or vegetables. Beer, thick and nutritious, is your primary drink. Safer than the often contaminated river water. Meat is a rare luxury, perhaps a small fish caught from the Nile. or a chicken if you're lucky enough to raise one. Imagine the gritty texture of the bread, the earthy taste of the stew, the slightly sour tang of the beer. It's not gourmet, but it keeps you alive. Your home is a small, single-room dwelling, built from sun-dried mud bricks and topped with a flat roof made of palm fronds and mud. It's cool in the heat of the day, but offers little protection from the cold desert nights. There's no plumbing, no elaborate furniture, a few woven mats, some pottery vessels for cooking and storage, and perhaps a small wooden stool are all you possess. Your family, often extended, lives together in this cramped space, sharing warmth and meager resources. One unique detail about life for the poor is the ingenious use of the Nile's mud. Not only did it provide fertile soil for farming and material for building homes, but it was also used to create pottery, bricks, and even simple tools. You might spend your non-farming days collecting mud, mixing it with straw, and shaping it into bricks to repair your home or to sell for a meager income. This constant interaction with the river's bounty, transforming its gifts into essential items, highlights the incredible resourcefulness born of necessity. It's like having a magical, self-replenishing supply of Legos, but they're made of dirt, and you have to build your own house. The river isn't just for farming and building. It's your highway, your source of fish, and your washing machine. You see countless boats, from small papyrus skiffs to large cargo barges, plying its waters. You might spend hours fishing, hoping to supplement your meager diet. Women and children gather at its banks to wash clothes, collect water, and perhaps gossip about village affairs. The Nile is a constant presence, its rhythms dictating your daily life, its waters providing both sustenance and a sense of community. Historians still debate the exact level of social mobility for the poor in ancient Egypt. While the vast majority remained in the social class they were born into, were there genuine opportunities for advancement through exceptional skill, military service, or scribal training? The evidence suggests that such opportunities were exceedingly rare, a glimmer of hope for a fortunate few, but not a widespread reality. The academic discussion grapples with the idealized portrayals of Egyptian society versus the harsh realities of a highly stratified system. It's like trying to figure out if anyone actually wins the lottery, or if it's just a nice dream. Despite the hardships, life isn't entirely without its moments of simple pleasure. You might gather with your neighbors in the cool evenings, sharing stories, listening to music played on a simple flute, or watching children play games in the dust. The bonds of family and community are strong, providing a vital support system in a world that offers little in the way of safety nets. You share your meager resources, celebrate births and marriages, and mourn deaths together, finding strength in collective solidarity. The constant threat of disease is ever present. The Nile, while life-giving, also carries parasites and diseases. Poor sanitation, contaminated water, and a diet lacking in variety make you vulnerable to a host of ailments. Infant mortality is high, and life expectancy is short. You learn to live with chronic aches, fevers, and the constant threat of infection. There are no doctors in your village, only traditional healers who rely on herbs and ancient remedies, often with limited success. Your world is small and confined to your village and the surrounding fields. You might occasionally travel to a nearby market town to trade a few surplus goods, but long-distance travel is a luxury reserved for the wealthy. Your knowledge of the world beyond the Nile Valley is limited, shaped by the stories of traders and the pronouncements of the pharaoh's officials. You are a small cog in a vast, ancient machine, your life dedicated to sustaining the larger system. The sheer scale of the pharaoh's projects, the pyramids, the temples, the colossal statues, these are built on the backs of people like you. During the inundation, when farming is impossible, you might be conscripted for forced labor, working on these massive construction projects. Imagine the sun beating down, the dust in your lungs, the endless task of hauling heavy stones, all for the glory of a ruler you will likely never see. This obligatory labor, a common historical fact, was a fundamental part of the Egyptian state's power. It's like having a mandatory summer job where the pay is just not dying, and your boss is a god king. Your spiritual life is deeply intertwined with the natural world and the rhythms of the Nile. You revere the gods, particularly Ra, the sun god, and Osiris, the god of the afterlife and rebirth, who is intimately connected to the Nile's fertility. You might offer small prayers at a local shrine, or leave a simple offering of bread or beer to a local deity. Your understanding of the afterlife is simpler than that of the wealthy, but you still hope for a peaceful existence in the field of reeds, a verdant paradise where you can farm forever. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the simple, yet arduous life of the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life dictated by the rhythms of the Nile, shaped by relentless labor, and sustained by the bonds of family and community. It was a life of hardship, but also of profound resilience, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of immense challenges. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the gentle lapping of the Nile, a constant, comforting presence in a world of endless toil. As the gentle lapping of the Nile against its banks lulls you further into this ancient world, your focus shifts from the vast, life-giving river to the intimate confines of your own dwelling, your home. A humble sanctuary from the relentless sun and the ever-present dust is a testament to the ingenuity born of necessity. It's not a grand structure of carved stone, but a simple, functional space, built from the very earth that sustains you. Imagine stepping inside your small, single-room home. The walls are made of sun-dried mud bricks, a common historical fact for peasant dwellings in ancient Egypt. These bricks, often mixed with straw for added strength, are surprisingly effective at insulating against the scorching daytime heat, keeping the interior relatively cool. But as the sun dips below the horizon, the coolness quickly gives way to the chill of the desert night, reminding you that comfort is a relative term. The roof is flat, typically constructed from palm fronds laid over wooden beams, then covered with a thick layer of mud. This provides some protection from the elements. And in the cooler months, it might even serve as an extra sleeping area, offering a slightly breezier escape from the cramped interior. The floor is simply packed earth, smoothed and hardened by generations of bare feet. There's no fancy tiling, no polished stone. You sit, eat, and sleep directly on this floor, perhaps on woven mats made from reeds or palm leaves. These mats are your primary furniture, serving as beds at night and seating during the day. They are easily rolled up and put away, creating an adaptable living space that can transform from sleeping quarters to dining area in moments. It's like living in a very minimalist studio apartment, but without the minimalist price tag, and with more dust. Your possessions are few, but essential. A few pottery vessels for storing grain, water, and beer. A grinding stone for turning barley into flour. A daily chore that falls to the women of the household. Perhaps a small, low wooden stool, a luxury for the elder of the family. A simple clay oven, or a brazier for cooking, often placed just outside the doorway to keep smoke from filling the small room. Everything you own is practical, durable, and designed for survival in a harsh environment. There's no clutter, no decorative trinkets. Every item serves a purpose. The family unit is the cornerstone of your existence. You live in an extended family household, often with your parents, siblings, their spouses, and your own children, all sharing the same small space. Grandparents might also be present, their wisdom and experience invaluable in a world where survival depends on collective knowledge. This multi-generational living arrangement, a common historical fact, provides a vital support system. Everyone has a role, from the youngest child helping with chores to the oldest elder offering advice and telling stories. Children are a blessing, a sign of prosperity, and future laborers. You see them everywhere, playing in the dust outside your home, helping with small tasks, or simply observing the world around them. Infant mortality is tragically high, a grim reality that you learn to live with. Many children do not survive their first few years, succumbing to disease or malnutrition, but for those who do, they are cherished, taught the skills they will need to survive, and prepared for their roles in the family and community. It's like having a very large, very busy daycare, but everyone's also working. The division of labor within the family is clear. Men typically work in the fields, tending to crops, irrigating, and harvesting. They might also engage in fishing or other forms of manual labor for the state. Women are responsible for the household grinding grain, baking bread, brewing beer, weaving cloth, and raising the children. They also play a crucial role in the harvest, helping to gather and process the crops. While roles are distinct, Everyone contributes to the family's survival, a collective effort against the challenges of daily life. Marriage is a practical affair, often arranged within the village or with neighboring communities. It's not necessarily about romantic love, though affection can certainly grow. It's about forming alliances, securing labor, and ensuring the continuation of the family line. Dowries are exchanged, agreements made, and the new couple establishes their place within the extended family structure. Divorce is possible, though rare, and generally frowned upon. It's like a very serious business merger, but with more emotional entanglement. One unique detail about family life for the poor is the importance of the family tomb, however humble. Even the poorest families would strive to have a simple burial plot, often a shallow grave in the desert sand, sometimes marked by a few stones or a simple pottery vessel. While they couldn't afford elaborate mummification or grand sarcophagi, they still believed in the afterlife and the importance of providing for their deceased loved ones. This shared cultural belief in the journey to the field of reeds, regardless of wealth, highlights a surprising spiritual equality. It's like everyone gets a ticket to the afterlife, but some get first-class seats and others are in economy. Hygiene, while not up to modern standards, was surprisingly important. Despite the dust and the lack of running water, people would bathe in the Nile whenever possible, and linen clothing was regularly washed. The dry climate helped prevent some diseases, but the constant presence of flies and the lack of proper sanitation meant that illnesses were still rampant. You might spend your evenings picking lice from your children's hair, a common, if unpleasant, family activity. The community is your wider family. Your village is a tight-knit unit, where everyone knows everyone else, and mutual support is essential. You share tools, help each other during harvest, and rely on your neighbors in times of crisis. Disputes are often settled by village elders, avoiding the need for official scribes or distant courts. This strong sense of communal solidarity, a common historical fact, provides a vital safety net in a world without formal welfare systems. It's like living in a very large, very ancient co-housing community, where everyone's in each other's business. But in a good way, historians still debate the precise legal rights of the poor in ancient Egypt. While theoretically all Egyptians were subjects of the pharaoh and had some basic rights, the practical application of justice often favored the wealthy and powerful. Could a poor farmer truly seek redress against a corrupt official or a tyrannical noble? The evidence suggests that while legal avenues existed, access to them was limited, and justice was often dispensed through local customs or the arbitrary will of those in power. The academic discussion grapples with the gap between legal theory and social reality. A common challenge when studying ancient societies, it's like trying to figure out if the rules of a game apply equally to everyone, or if some players just get to make up their own. Despite the hardships, life in your simple home is filled with the rhythms of family, the laughter of children, the quiet hum of women grinding grain, the shared meals at the end of a long day. These are the moments that define your existence, providing warmth, comfort, and a sense of belonging in a world that often demands so much. Your home, though small and unadorned, is your refuge, your center, the place where you are truly yourself. The simplicity of your home also meant it was easily repaired. A cracked mud brick could be replaced with fresh mud, a leaky roof patched with new palm fronds. There was no need for specialized craftsmen or expensive materials. This self-sufficiency, born of necessity, allowed you to maintain your dwelling with minimal outside help, further reinforcing your independence within the confines of your social class. It's like having a house that's also a giant, self-repairing sandcastle. Your family's spiritual life is also centered in the home. Small offerings might be made to household deities or ancestral spirits. Simple prayers whispered before meals or at bedtime. There are no grand altars, no elaborate rituals, just quiet acts of devotion that acknowledge the divine presence in your daily life. The gods are not distant figures. They are intimately connected to your home, your family, and the very land you inhabit. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the simple, yet profound, reality of home and family for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life of shared space, shared labor, and shared burdens, sustained by the unbreakable bonds of kinship and community. It was a life lived close to the earth, dictated by the rhythms of the Nile, and illuminated by the enduring warmth of human connection. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the quiet hum of your family breathing around you, a comforting presence in your humble mud brick sanctuary, as the warmth of your humble mud brick home envelops you, and the quiet hum of your family settles into the night. Your thoughts now inevitably turn to the most fundamental aspect of daily survival food. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, your diet isn't a matter of choice or culinary adventure. Oh no. It's a relentless, daily pursuit of sustenance, dictated by the bounty of the Nile and the limitations of your meager resources. And as you imagine the simple, repetitive meals, you begin to understand the sheer ingenuity and resilience required to feed yourself and your family in this ancient world. Imagine waking up, your stomach already rumbling with the familiar pangs of hunger. Your first meal of the day, like every meal, will be simple. Bread. Always bread. It is the absolute cornerstone of your diet, a common historical fact for all Egyptians, rich or poor. This isn't the light, airy bread of modern times. It's a dense, coarse loaf, often made from barley or emmer wheat. The grain is ground daily by the women of the household, a laborious task performed on a saddle quern, a large, flat stone with a smaller, rounded stone rubbed over it. You can almost hear the rhythmic scraping sound, the fine dust settling on everything, and feel the ache in your own arms just imagining the effort. The flour, often gritty from small fragments of the grinding stone, is then mixed with water, sometimes a little salt, and perhaps a bit of old dough as a starter for fermentation. It's then shaped into flat, round loaves and baked in a simple clay oven, often outdoors, or on a hot griddle. Imagine the smell of freshly baked bread, earthy and slightly sour, filling the air. It's a comforting aroma, a promise of sustenance, even if the bread itself is tough on the teeth and often contains sand from the grinding process. This grit, a unique detail often found in the teeth of ancient Egyptian mummies, speaks volumes about the daily reality of their diet. It's like having a permanent, slightly crunchy surprise in every bite, which isn't as fun as it sounds. Your primary drink, alongside water from the Nile, is beer. Not the clear, bubbly beer you might know today, but a thick, nutritious, often unfiltered brew made from fermented barley bread. It's more like a liquid bread, packed with calories and nutrients, and, crucially, safer to drink than the often contaminated river water. Children, too, drink beer, though likely a weaker version. Imagine the slightly sour, yeasty taste, a staple that provides both hydration and essential energy for a day of hard labor. It's like a very ancient, very effective energy drink, but you probably wouldn't want to chug it before a workout. Vegetables form a significant part of your diet. Lentils, onions, garlic, leeks, and beans are common, grown in your small garden plot or acquired from the market. These are often cooked into simple stews, seasoned with herbs if you can find them. Imagine the earthy aroma of simmering lentils, a hearty, filling meal that provides much-needed vitamins and fiber. Fruits, when in season, are a welcome treat. Dates, figs, grapes, and melons. These are often eaten fresh or dried for preservation, a rare burst of sweetness in an otherwise plain diet. Meat is a rare luxury. You might occasionally catch fish from the Nile, tilapia, catfish, or perch, which would be a welcome addition to your diet. These fish would be grilled over an open fire or dried in the sun for later consumption. Poultry, like chickens or ducks, might be raised if you have the space and resources, but they are often reserved for special occasions or for trade. Red meat, from cattle or sheep, is almost exclusively for the wealthy, a distant dream for you. Imagine the excitement, the rare joy of a piece of grilled fish, a fleeting taste of something truly special. It's like getting a fancy steak dinner, but only once a year, and you probably caught the steak yourself. Your meals are communal affairs, eaten with your family. You sit on the floor, sharing from common bowls, breaking bread together. There are no elaborate dining tables, no individual plates. The act of eating is a moment of togetherness, a brief respite from the day's toil, where stories are shared and bonds are strengthened. This communal eating, a common historical fact, highlights the strong family and community ties that were essential for survival. Food preservation is crucial. Without refrigeration, you rely on drying, salting, and fermenting. Fish is dried in the sun. Grains are stored in sealed pottery jars to protect them from pests, and fruits are dried to last through the lean months. You learn to be resourceful, to make every scrap count, and to ensure that nothing goes to waste. This constant battle against spoilage and pests is a daily challenge, a testament to the ingenuity of ancient food practices. It's like a very intense, very low-tech version of meal prepping. But if you mess up, you starve. Historians still debate the precise nutritional adequacy of the ancient Egyptian peasant diet. While it provided sufficient calories for manual labor, was it truly balanced in terms of micronutrients? Evidence from skeletal remains suggests that while malnutrition was common, particularly among children, the diet was generally sufficient to sustain a large population, albeit with a high prevalence of certain deficiency diseases. The academic discussion grapples with the complexities of reconstructing ancient dietary patterns from limited archaeological and textual evidence. It's like trying to figure out someone's entire diet based on a single grocery receipt. You get some clues, but not the whole picture. Your access to food is entirely dependent on the success of the harvest and the whims of the Nile. A poor inundation, a locust plague, or a period of political instability could mean famine. You live with the constant threat of scarcity, knowing that a single bad season could bring starvation to your family and village. This vulnerability to environmental factors is a grim reality that shapes your entire life. One unique detail about their diet is the consumption of certain wild plants and birds. While not a staple during lean times or for variety, you might forage for wild greens, roots, or hunt small birds like quail or doves. These supplementary food sources, though meager, could make the difference between survival and starvation, highlighting the resourcefulness of the poor in utilizing every available resource from their environment. It's like having a secret emergency snack stash, but the snack is a very small bird you had to catch yourself. The pharaoh and the temples, as you know, control vast granaries where much of the harvest is stored as taxes. In times of severe famine, the state might distribute grain to the populace, but this is a rare and often insufficient measure. You are largely on your own, relying on your own labor, your family's efforts, and the generosity of your community to survive. This reliance on self-sufficiency and local networks is a defining characteristic of life for the poor. The preparation of food is simple and time-consuming. Grinding grain, fetching water, tending the fire, and cooking the basic meals takes up a significant portion of the day, especially for the women. There are no prepackaged foods, no quick meals. Every bite is the result of direct, laborious effort. Imagine the sheer physical exertion involved in preparing even the simplest meal. Day after day, year after year, despite the monotony, there are small rituals around food. Sharing a meal with guests, even if it's just a piece of bread and a cup of beer, is an act of hospitality. Offering a portion of your meal to the gods or ancestral spirits is a common practice, a quiet prayer for continued bounty. These small gestures infuse daily sustenance with spiritual meaning, elevating the mundane act of eating into something more profound. The contrast with the diet of the wealthy is stark. While you eat coarse bread and simple stews, the rich feast on fine cuts of meat, exotic fruits, and elaborate pastries. They drink fine wine, not thick beer. Their tables groan under the weight of abundance, while your family scrapes by on the bare minimum. This visible disparity, a common historical fact, is a constant reminder of your place in the rigid social hierarchy. The concept of a balanced diet, as we understand it, simply doesn't exist. You eat what is available, it's what you can grow and what you can afford. The focus is on calories and basic nutrients to sustain physical labor. Long-term health consequences of this diet, such as dental wear from gritty bread or deficiencies from lack of variety, are simply a part of life, accepted as inevitable. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the fundamental reality of food for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life defined by the relentless pursuit of sustenance, by the simple, repetitive meals that kept you alive, and by the constant struggle against scarcity. It was a life of ingenuity and resilience, a testament to the human spirit's ability to thrive on the bare minimum. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the earthy taste of ancient bread, a comforting presence in your humble, sun-baked world. As the simple, earthy taste of ancient bread lingers on your tongue, and the quiet rhythm of your village settles into the deep night, your thoughts turn to the relentless, often backbreaking, reality of your daily existence labor. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, your life is a constant cycle of toil, dictated by the seasons, the whims of the Nile, and the insatiable demands of the pharaoh and his vast state. And as you imagine the endless tasks, you begin to understand the sheer physical endurance and unwavering obedience required to sustain this ancient civilization. Imagine the sun already a searing orb in the sky as you step out of your humble home. Your day begins before dawn, and it ends long after dusk. Most of your labor, a common historical fact, is agricultural. You are a farmer, a peasant, and your primary duty is to work the land. During Pare, the growing season, you spend countless hours in the fields, preparing the soil with a simple wooden plow pulled by oxen, scattering seeds by hand, and then meticulously irrigating the thirsty crops. You guide the water from the main canals into smaller channels, ensuring every precious drop reaches your barley and wheat. Imagine the fine dust clinging to your skin, the sweat stinging your eyes, and the constant hum of insects as you toil under the relentless sun. When the harvest, Shemu, arrives, the intensity of your labor escalates. You, your family, and your entire village work together, cutting the ripened stalks with sickles, bundling them, and then carrying them to the threshing floor. Here, oxen or donkeys are driven over the grain to separate the kernels from the stalks, a dusty, noisy process. Then comes the winnowing, where you toss the threshed grain into the air, allowing the wind to carry away the lighter chaff, leaving the heavier, valuable kernels. Your muscles ache, your hands are raw, but the urgency is paramount. Every grain collected is a step away from starvation. It's like a never-ending, mandatory farm boot camp. But the only prize is more food. But your labor isn't confined to the fields. During Akhet, the inundation season, when the Nile overflows its banks and farming is impossible, you are often conscripted for corvée labor, a common historical fact. This means you are called upon by the state to work on monumental construction projects for the pharaoh. Imagine yourself hauling massive stone blocks for a pyramid, dragging them on sledges across the desert, or perhaps digging vast irrigation canals to control the Nile's waters. The work is brutal, supervised by stern overseers, and often performed under the blazing sun with minimal rest. There are no machines, no complex cranes, just the sheer force of human muscle. Organized and directed by the state, you might be part of a team, pulling on ropes, your shoulders straining against the weight of a stone block that seems impossibly heavy. The dust fills your lungs, the sun beats down on your bare back, and the rhythmic chants of your fellow laborers are the only sounds breaking the silence. This forced labor, often for months at a time, takes you away from your family and your village. A grim obligation that funds the lavish immortality projects of the elite. It's like having a mandatory, unpaid summer internship. But the internship involves building giant stone triangles for a god king. Beyond agriculture and state projects, you might engage in other forms of labor to supplement your family's meager income. Perhaps you spend days fishing in the Nile, hoping for a good catch to add protein to your diet, or to trade at the local market. Or you might collect reeds from the riverbanks to weave into mats, baskets, or even simple papyrus skiffs. Some might work in quarries, chipping away at stone, or in small workshops, making pottery or simple tools. Every extra bit of effort, every small craft produced, contributes to your family's survival. Your labor is not just physical, it is also highly regulated. Scribes, the pharaoh's officials, are everywhere, meticulously recording harvests, assessing taxes, and overseeing labor gangs. They are the eyes and ears of the state, ensuring that every ounce of your effort contributes to the grand machinery of Egypt. You learn to be deferential, to obey without question, for their power is absolute, and their punishments can be severe. One unique detail about the labor of the poor is the concept of heka, or magic, often intertwined with their work. While not explicitly religious rituals, many laborers would utter small incantations or wear amulets believed to bring good fortune, protect them from injury, or ensure the success of their tasks. A farmer might whisper a prayer to Osiris before planting, or a quarry worker might invoke a protective deity before lifting a heavy stone. This blend of practical effort and spiritual belief highlights the pervasive role of magic in their daily lives. A common historical fact that infused even the most mundane tasks with deeper meaning. It's like having a lucky charm for your shovel, just in case. Historians still debate the exact conditions of labor for the poor. While some accounts suggest harsh treatment and brutal punishments, others point to evidence of organized work gangs, medical care for injured workers, especially on royal projects, and even occasional days off for festivals. Was the life of a peasant farmer or a conscripted laborer one of unremitting misery? Or were there periods of respite and a degree of paternalistic care from the state? The academic discussion grapples with the varying interpretations of textual and archaeological evidence. Trying to paint a balanced picture of a complex reality is like trying to figure out if your ancestors enjoyed their jobs, based on their very short, very official job descriptions. The concept of free time as you know it barely exists. Your life is a continuous cycle of work, punctuated only by sleep and the occasional festival. Even during festivals, while there might be feasting and celebration, there's always an underlying awareness of the work that awaits. Your identity is deeply intertwined with your labor. You are a farmer, a laborer, a producer, and your worth is often measured by your ability to contribute to the collective good. The tools you use are simple, often made of wood, stone, or bone: a wooden hoe, a simple sickle, a basket for carrying earth. These tools are passed down through generations, repaired and reused until they can no longer serve their purpose. You learn to be resourceful, to mend what is broken, and to make do with what you have. This reliance on basic, handmade implements is a testament to the low level of technology available to the common person. The physical toll of this labor is immense. Years of bending, lifting, and toiling under the sun leave their mark on your body. Arthritis, back pain, and dental problems are common. Life expectancy is short, and many do not live to old age. You learn to endure pain, to push your body to its limits, knowing that your family's survival depends on your strength and resilience. One fascinating, perhaps lesser-known detail is the existence of worker villages like Deir el-Medina, though these were for skilled artisans and craftsmen, not ordinary peasant farmers. While these workers enjoyed a relatively higher standard of living and more regular pay, their existence highlights the state's ability to organize and house large workforces for specific projects. For the average peasant, however, such specialized, well-supported labor was a distant dream. It's like knowing there's a fancy, exclusive club for super talented people, but you're stuck doing manual labor outside. The system of labor was hierarchical. Above you were foremen, scribes, and overseers, all part of the vast bureaucracy that managed the Egyptian state. You were at the bottom, the foundation upon which the entire civilization rested. Your obedience was expected, your labor demanded, and your individual needs often secondary to the grand designs of the pharaoh. Despite the hardships, there was a sense of purpose. Your labor, however arduous, contributed to the glory of Egypt, to the construction of temples that honored the gods, and to the maintenance of a system that, for all its inequities, provided a degree of stability and order. You were a part of something vast and ancient, a living testament to the enduring power of human effort. The rhythm of your work is dictated by the Nile. The 3 seasons, Akhet inundation, Peret growing, and Shemu harvest, define your year. You adapt your labor to these cycles, moving from farming to construction, from planting to harvesting, always in sync with the river's ebb and flow. This intimate connection to the natural world, and your role within its cycles, gives your labor a deeper, almost spiritual meaning. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the relentless reality of labor for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life of unending toil, dictated by the seasons, the river, and the demands of the state. It was a life of physical endurance and unwavering obedience, a testament to the human spirit's capacity for hard work and resilience. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the rhythmic swing of a hoe, the distant chant of laborers, and the endless, dusty fields stretching under the ancient sun. As the dust of the field settles and the echoes of forced labor fade into the quiet of the night, your thoughts turn to a more insidious, ever-present threat than the pharaoh's overseers. The unseen enemies that lurk in the water, in the air, and in the very food you eat. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, health is a constant battle, and illness is a grim companion, shaping your days with aches, fevers, and the ever-present shadow of mortality. And as you imagine the daily struggle against disease, you begin to understand the sheer resilience required to simply survive in this ancient world. Imagine waking up, not with the vigor of a new day, but with a dull ache in your joints, or a persistent cough that rattles your chest. Your body, constantly pushed to its limits by hard labor and a monotonous diet, is a fertile ground for ailments. The very river that gives you life, the mighty Nile, is also a source of countless dangers. Its waters, while essential for irrigation and drinking, are teeming with parasites. You and your family drink directly from it, or from wells that draw water from it, unaware of the microscopic invaders that enter your body with every sip. This constant exposure to waterborne pathogens, a common historical fact, made you incredibly vulnerable. It's like having a beautiful, life-giving garden hose, but it's secretly spraying tiny, invisible monsters. Schistosomiasis, or bilharzia, is a particularly insidious threat. You might not even know you have it for years, but the tiny parasitic worms, carried by snails in the Nile's canals and floodwaters, burrow into your skin when you're working in the fields or bathing. Once inside, they mature and lay eggs, causing chronic inflammation, organ damage, and a host of debilitating symptoms: blood in your urine, abdominal pain, fatigue, and a general wasting away. Imagine the constant nagging discomfort, the slow erosion of your strength, making every day's labor even more arduous. This debilitating illness was rampant, leaving many weak and vulnerable. Beyond the water, the very air you breathe carries its own dangers. The fine dust from the desert, combined with the smoke from cooking fires and the dust from threshing grain, constantly irritates your lungs. Respiratory infections are common, from simple coughs and colds that can quickly turn deadly, to more serious conditions like pneumonia or tuberculosis. You might hear the hacking coughs of your neighbors, or see a child struggling for breath, knowing that for many, these seemingly minor ailments could be a death sentence. Your diet, while providing basic calories, is often lacking in essential nutrients. The reliance on bread and beer, with limited access to meat or a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, leads to nutritional deficiencies. Anemia, caused by iron deficiency, is common, leaving you perpetually tired and weak. Scurvy, yes, from a lack of vitamin C, might manifest as bleeding gums and joint pain, though fruits like dates and figs, when available, would provide some relief. This dietary monotony, a common historical fact, contributed significantly to your overall poor health. It's like living on a diet of only toast and lukewarm soda, and then wondering why you feel a bit off. Dental health is a constant struggle. The grit from the grinding stones, as you remember from your daily bread, wears down your teeth, leading to severe abrasion. This exposes the inner pulp, causing agonizing pain, infections, and abscesses. Without modern dentistry, a toothache can be a debilitating, even deadly a condition if the infection spreads. You might see villagers with missing teeth or faces swollen from infection. A grim testament to the silent suffering caused by poor oral hygiene, it's like having tiny, invisible sandblasters in every bite of bread, slowly eroding your smile. Eye infections are also rampant. The intense sunlight, combined with the ever-present dust, flies, and poor hygiene, creates a perfect breeding ground for conditions like trachoma, which can lead to blindness. You might see many people in your village with red, inflamed eyes, or with eyelids scarred from repeated infections. This widespread ocular disease, a common historical fact, often left people partially sighted or completely blind, further limiting their ability to work and care for themselves. When illness strikes, your options are limited. There are no doctors in your village, no modern hospitals. You rely on traditional healers, often women or elders, who use herbs, poultices, and ancient remedies passed down through generations. Some of these might offer temporary relief, but many are ineffective against serious infections or parasitic diseases. You might also turn to magic, wearing amulets or reciting incantations, hoping to ward off evil spirits believed to cause illness. This blend of practical remedies and superstitious beliefs highlights the limited medical knowledge available to the poor. It's like going to a pharmacist who also sells Lucky Charms, and you're not sure which one will actually help. Childbirth is incredibly dangerous for both mother and child. Without proper medical care, complications during labor are common, and infant mortality rates are tragically high. Many children do not survive their first few years, succumbing to infections, dehydration, or malnutrition. You learn to live with this heartbreaking reality, cherishing each child who survives, but always aware of the fragility of life. One unique detail about health for the poor is the evidence of ancient surgical practices, though these were almost exclusively performed on the wealthy or on soldiers by specialized physicians. For you, a common peasant, a broken bone might heal crookedly, a deep wound could easily become infected, and a severe illness would likely run its course without intervention. The advanced medical knowledge sometimes depicted in texts or found in elite tombs was largely inaccessible to the vast majority of the population, highlighting the stark class divide in healthcare. It's like knowing there's a super advanced hospital in the city, but you're stuck with a band-aid and a prayer in your village. Historians still debate the extent to which the ancient Egyptians understood the causes of disease. While they had some knowledge of anatomy and recognized certain symptoms, their understanding of germ theory was non-existent. Did they attribute most illnesses to divine displeasure, evil spirits, or simply bad luck? Or was there a more empirical approach to treatment based on observation? The academic discussion grapples with interpreting ancient medical texts, which often blend practical remedies with magical incantations, making it difficult to discern their true understanding of pathology. It's like trying to figure out if your ancestors believed in ghosts or just really bad ventilation. The constant physical labor also takes its toll. Years of bending, lifting, and repetitive motions lead to chronic back pain, arthritis, and joint problems. Your body ages quickly, worn down by the relentless demands placed upon it. By your 30s or 40s, you might already feel like an old person, your body riddled with aches and pains from a lifetime of toil. Hygiene, while practiced, is limited by resources. You might bathe in the Nile, but its waters are not always clean. Your clothes, though made of clean linen, are often worn and dusty. The close living quarters, shared with family and livestock, contribute to the spread of infectious diseases. Flies are a constant nuisance, carrying disease from person to person, from waste to food. One unique detail about personal care for the poor is the use of oils. While the wealthy used perfumed oils and elaborate cosmetics, even the poor would use simple vegetable oils, like castor oil or olive oil if available, rubbed into their skin after bathing. This wasn't just for moisturizing, it also provided a protective layer against the harsh sun and helped to deter insects. Imagine the simple, earthy scent of the oil, a small luxury that offered both comfort and protection in a world without modern sunscreens or insect repellents. It's like your ancient Egyptian version of all-in-one lotion, sunscreen, and bug spray. Osiris, god of the underworld, rebirth, and the fertility of the Nile, is also an extremely important god to you. You understand that life, like the Nile, has a cycle of death and rebirth, as the floodwaters rise and fall, leaving behind fertile silt. You see the rebirth of the land, a direct reflection of the story of Osiris's murder and resurrection. You pray to him for a bountiful harvest and a peaceful life after death. Belief in Osiris gives you hope, a comfort that death is not the end, but a transition to another form of existence. As the quiet hum of your village settles around you, and the practicalities of clothing and cleanliness fade into the background, your thoughts now turn to the less tangible, yet equally vital, aspects of life, knowledge and joy. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, the world of education and elaborate entertainment is largely a distant dream, reserved for the privileged few. Yet, even within the confines of your humble existence, you find small moments of learning and simple pleasures, a testament to the enduring human need for both. Other gods, such as Isis, Osiris's wife and goddess of magic and healing, or Horus, their son and protector of the pharaohs, also have a place in your mind. You may not know all the intricate stories about them, like a priest or a learned person, but you understand their fundamental role in maintaining cosmic order and protecting humanity. You may carry a small amulet shaped like the eye of Horus to protect against evil, or pray to Isis when a family member is sick. It was a practical way to interact with the spirit world, a historical fact common in everyday life, as the faint ache in your bones reminds you of the constant struggle for health, and the quiet of the night deepens around your humble dwelling. Your thoughts now turn to the more intimate aspects of daily life, your clothing, and personal hygiene. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, these aren't matters of fashion or luxury, they are practical necessities, dictated by the relentless climate and the limited resources available. And as you imagine the simple linen garments and the daily routines, you begin to understand the ingenuity and adaptability required to stay clean and comfortable in this ancient world. The large temples, with their towering walls and colossal statues, were places for priests and state ceremonies. You were rarely allowed inside the most sacred areas. Instead, you practiced your faith at smaller shrines in the village, or simply at home. You might have a small clay statue of a favorite deity, or a simple altar with offerings of bread, beer, or fruit. These private acts of devotion, a unique detail often overlooked, showed that the faith of the poor was part of personal and family life, not just a public ritual. It was like having a quiet corner to meditate, instead of having to go to a large church. Preparation for the afterlife is an important aspect of life, even for the poor. Although you cannot afford the lavish embalming or elaborate tombs of the pharaohs and nobles, you believe that the soul needs to be prepared for the great journey. You may be buried in a shallow grave in the desert, your body wrapped in a simple linen cloth, sometimes accompanied by a few personal items such as a ceramic bowl or a small amulet. These items are believed to aid you in your journey to the reed fields, a verdant paradise where you can resume an ideal agricultural life. Imagine the daily rhythm of your village. While the children of scribes and nobles might be attending formal schools, learning hieroglyphs and mathematics, your education is far more practical, far more immediate. You learn by doing, by observing, by participating. From a very young age, you begin to help your parents with their chores. If you are a boy, you follow your father to the fields, learning how to handle a hoe, how to guide the oxen pulling the plow, how to recognize the subtle signs of a healthy crop. You learn the rhythm of the seasons, the nuances of the Nile's floodwaters, and the precise timing for planting and harvesting. This apprenticeship, passed down from parent to child, is your schooling, a common historical fact for the vast majority of the population. It's like a very intense, very hands-on vocational school, where failing means you don't eat. The concept of a judgment after death, where your heart will be weighed against the feathers of Maat, goddess of justice and order, is a core belief. You strive to live a life of integrity, honesty, and hard work, hoping that your actions will help you through this ordeal. Even though you don't have the books of the dead or the complex annals of the rich, you still understand the basic principles of justice and morality. It's like knowing that you have to be good to get to heaven, even if you've never read the Bible. Despite efforts at cleanliness, the constant presence of dust and flies is a challenge. The fine desert sand gets into everything, clinging to your skin, your clothes, and your hair. Flies are a ubiquitous nuisance, attracted by food, waste, and the general conditions of village life. Eye infections, as you recall, are rampant, partly due to the flies carrying bacteria from person to person. You learn to live with their constant buzzing, swatting them away almost unconsciously. Religious festivals are important times of the year, providing a rare break from work and an opportunity for the community to come together to honor the gods. During festivals like the Alpet Festival or the Valley Festival, you'll participate in processions, feasts, and dances. Although the main ceremonies may take place in temples, the atmosphere of festivity permeates the village, creating a sense of unity and shared joy. These are moments when social hierarchies seem to blur, and everyone is part of a larger community. If you are a girl, you learn alongside your mother, mastering the essential household skills. You learn to grind grain, a physically demanding task that will be a daily ritual for the rest of your life. You learn to bake bread, to brew beer, to spin flax into linen thread, and to weave that thread into fabric. You learn to care for younger siblings, to prepare simple meals, and to manage the meager resources of your home. Your education is entirely focused on practical survival, on contributing directly to the well-being of your family. There are no textbooks, no lectures, just the constant, guiding presence of your elders. Historians still debate the extent to which the religious beliefs of the poor differed from those of the elite. Did the poor focus more on gods related to agriculture and daily life, while the elite were more interested in royal gods and elaborate rituals? The evidence suggests that there are differences in practice and approach, but core beliefs about the afterlife, major gods, and the importance of mayat seem to be common across all social classes. Scholarly debate is still trying to clarify the subtle differences between the beliefs of different social classes. It's like trying to figure out if everyone has the same religion. But each practices it slightly differently. The concept of a healthy life, free from chronic pain or debilitating illness, is likely a foreign one. Your expectations are lower. Your understanding of disease limited. You accept illness as a part of life, a natural consequence of existence, and you do your best to cope with what fate throws at you. The importance of ancestors is also part of your religious beliefs. You believe that deceased family members can still influence the lives of the living, bringing good luck or warnings of danger. You may leave small offerings at their graves, or pray to them for guidance. This connection to your ancestors provides a sense of continuity, an assurance that you are part of a lineage that extends back through the generations, and that death does not completely sever the connection. Literacy, the ability to read and write, is an incredibly rare luxury, almost exclusively reserved for scribes, priests, and the highest echelons of society. For you, the complex hieroglyphs and the intricate cursive script of hieratic are a closed book. You communicate orally, through stories, songs, and spoken commands. Your knowledge is passed down verbally, from one generation to the next, preserving the traditions, wisdom, and history of your village. Imagine a world where the written word is a secret language, understood by only a tiny fraction of the population, giving immense power to those who possess it. It's like living in a world where only 1% of people can use the internet, and they're all sending each other memes about how important they are. Amulets, worn on the body or placed in the home, are a common way to seek protection and good fortune from the gods. You might wear a scarab, a symbol of rebirth and protection, or an ankh, a symbol of life or good health. These small objects provide comfort and a sense of control in a world where you have very little control. It is like having a lucky charm that you believe will protect you from all misfortune. Your home, though small, is kept as clean as possible. The packed earth floor is swept regularly, and pottery vessels are washed. Waste is typically disposed of outside the village, often in designated areas or simply in the desert, which, while not ideal by modern standards, was a practical solution in an arid environment. This basic sanitation, a common historical fact, helped to prevent some, though certainly not all, diseases. Belief in gods and the afterlife gives you a framework for understanding the world and your place in it. It explains the unexplainable, the flooding of the Nile, the death of a loved one, the changing of the seasons. It brings hope for a better life after death, a consolation that the hardships of this present life will be rewarded. Faith is a source of spiritual strength, helping you overcome everyday challenges. Your interactions with the gods were often more direct and personal than the elaborate rituals of the upper classes. You didn't need a priest to talk to the gods. You could talk to them while working in the fields, while drawing water from the Nile, or in the quiet of your home. It was a close, practical relationship that reflected your simple life. Your access to formal education is non-existent. There are no village schools for peasant children. Your days are filled with labor, not lessons. The idea of sitting in a classroom, learning abstract concepts, would be utterly foreign to your experience. Your wisdom comes from experience, from the cycles of the Nile, from the wisdom of your elders, and from the practical demands of your daily life. Ultimately, your religious beliefs were an integral part of your identity. They shaped how you viewed the world, how you treated others, and how you prepared for the future. They were a continuous thread woven into the tapestry of your life, from birth to the afterlife. Imagine waking up in the morning, the first rays of sun already promising a scorching day. Your wardrobe is simple, consisting primarily of linen garments, a common historical fact for all Egyptians, regardless of wealth. Linen, woven from flax plants, is ideal for the hot, dry climate. It's lightweight, breathable, and absorbs moisture, helping to keep you cool. For men, this typically means a simple loincloth or a short kilt, often reaching to the knees. For women, it's a longer, sheath-like dress, often with one or two straps over the shoulders, allowing for freedom of movement and maximum ventilation. Children wear little to nothing, especially in the heat, until they are old enough to begin working. It's like living in a permanent summer, where the dress code is always light and breezy, but without the fancy resort. So as the night fell and the outside world fell into a peaceful sleep, you might reflect on the simple yet profound realities of religious belief and the afterlife for the poor in ancient Egypt. It is a life shaped by the presence of the gods, by the hope of rebirth, and by daily acts of devotion. It is a life of unyielding faith, a testament to the capacity of the human spirit to find meaning and comfort in a challenging world. And as you drift off to sleep, you can picture the gentle light of the sun rising over the reed fields, a promise of eternal peace. As your simple prayers and personal rituals fade into the silence of the night, and your belief in the gods brings comfort to your soul, your mind turns to another, less sacred but equally real and burdensome aspect: the burden of taxation and the relentless control of the state. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, the pharaoh is not just a living god, he is also the supreme tax collector, and your life is shaped by the relentless demands of his vast bureaucracy. And as you imagine the financial burdens and the surveillance, you begin to understand the extent to which your life is controlled from top to bottom. When it comes to entertainment, your options are far simpler than the lavish banquets and elaborate musical performances enjoyed by the wealthy. Your leisure time is scarce, usually limited to the cool evenings after a long day's work, or during the brief periods when farming is impossible, such as the inundation season. But even then, relaxation is often intertwined with social interaction and communal activities. Imagine one day when the harvest is over and you are exhausted after months of hard labor. Suddenly, a group of scribes, well-dressed men armed with pens and papyrus, appear in your village. They do not come to help. They came to measure and demand. These were the representatives of Pharaoh, and their job was to collect taxes, a common and inevitable historical fact for all Egyptians. You had no right to argue, no right to hide. You could only bow your head and accept. Clothing repair is a constant task for the women of the household. Tears and holes are mended with needle and thread, patching garments until they are practically more patched than original fabric. Nothing is wasted. Old, worn-out linen might be repurposed into rags or bandages. This resourcefulness, born of necessity, ensures that your family always has something to wear, even if it's not stylish. It's like having a permanent mend-and-make-do philosophy, because buying new clothes isn't an option. Taxes were collected mainly in kind, usually grain, barley, and wheat. After a good harvest, a significant portion of what you had worked so hard to grow would be taken away. Imagine the scribes walking through your fields, their keen eyes assessing each pile of wheat, making careful notes on papyrus. They didn't care how many mouths you had to feed, or how difficult the harvest had been. They only cared about the amount that Pharaoh had demanded. It was like you had just finished a big project, and your boss came and took half of your salary, saying it was an administration fee. Storytelling is a cherished form of entertainment, gathered around the flickering light of a fire. You listen to elders recount ancient myths of the gods, tales of legendary pharaohs, or humorous anecdotes about village life. These stories are not just for amusement. They are a way of preserving history, transmitting moral lessons, and reinforcing cultural values. You might hear about the adventures of Osiris, the cunning tricks of Set, or the heroic deeds of a long-dead king. Imagine the quiet, rapt attention of the audience, the flickering shadows dancing on faces, as the storyteller's voice weaves a magical spell. In addition to grain, you may also have to pay taxes in the form of livestock, poultry, or other products you produce, such as linen or ceramics. Anything of value can be taxed. This means that even small items you make to supplement your income can be controlled, and a portion of them will go to the state treasury. This is a comprehensive system, designed to ensure that every aspect of the economy serves the central power. The cycle of health and disease is inextricably linked to the seasons. The inundation might bring new parasites, but the cooler months might offer a brief respite from the heat and some types of infection. You adapt your life to these rhythms, hoping for periods of good health, but always prepared for the inevitable onset of illness. State control does not stop at taxes. You also have to deal with the labor corvée, or forced labor, which you know from the flood. This is another form of tax, but instead of paying in goods, you pay in labor. Imagine being called to work on the pharaoh's massive construction projects, pyramids, temples, canals. You had to leave your family and your fields behind, work under the scorching sun, drag huge blocks of stone, or dig endless canals. This is a common historical fact, the foundation of the greatness of ancient Egypt, built on the sweat and toil of people like you. Music and dance are also popular. Someone in the village might play a simple flute, a lute, or a drum, providing a rhythmic backdrop for communal singing and dancing. These are not formal performances. They are spontaneous expressions of joy and camaraderie. You might join in, clapping your hands, tapping your feet, or dancing with your neighbors, releasing the tensions of the day in shared celebration. It's like a very ancient, very impromptu block party, but with fewer DJs and more flutes. The scribes were not just tax collectors, they were also the overseers, the scribes, and the enforcers of the pharaoh's power. They were the eyes and ears of the state in your village. They recorded the population, the number of livestock, the area of land cultivated. They settled minor disputes, but always with a clear bias in favor of the state. Their presence was a constant reminder of the absolute power of the pharaoh and his apparatus. It was like having someone record everything you did, and they were also the ones who decided whether you were punished or not. One unique detail that is often overlooked is how this system of taxation and forced labor created a huge middle class of bureaucrats. From village clerks to provincial officials, a complex network of individuals benefited from managing and collecting resources from people like you. This created opportunities for corruption and abuse of power. You might see a clerk demanding more than the prescribed amount, or a labor supervisor asking for extra work in exchange for a little favor. This was not always possible to resist, and you often had to accept these injustices to avoid worse consequences. It was like dealing with multiple layers of bureaucracy, and each layer wanted a small piece of your pie. Footwear is minimal most of the time. You go barefoot, your soles hardened by years of walking on rough terrain. If you do have sandals, they are simple, made from woven papyrus or palm leaves, offering minimal protection from the hot ground or sharp stones. Imagine the feeling of the warm earth beneath your feet, the dust rising with every step, and the occasional sharp prick of a thorn. Historians still debate the extent of corruption and oppression in the system of taxation and forced labor. Were there mechanisms for the poor to complain about abuses, or were they completely voiceless? Evidence shows that despite the laws and rules, in practice power often lies with those in power, and the poor are often less able to defend themselves. The academic debate is still trying to balance the ideal image of an orderly state with the harsh realities of everyday life for the majority of the population. It is like trying to figure out whether a system is fair on paper, or whether it is only fair to the powerful. Children, despite their early responsibilities, find time for play. They fashion simple toys from clay, wood, or reed small boats to float in the irrigation canals, dolls made from cloth scraps, or animal figures. They play games in the dust, running, jumping, and chasing each other, mimicking the activities of their elders. Their laughter, a universal sound, echoes through the village, a brief respite from the seriousness of adult life. State control extends to your movements. You cannot freely leave your village and move to another without permission. You are tied to your land and your work, part of the pharaoh's estate. This ensures that labor is always available for state projects and for cultivating the land. Imagine feeling trapped, knowing that you cannot simply leave even when life becomes too difficult. Your clothes are unbleached, retaining the natural off-white or beige color of the linen. They are not dyed. As dyes are expensive and reserved for the wealthy, the fabric might be coarse, not the fine, translucent linen worn by the elite. You have very few changes of clothing, perhaps 1 or 2 sets, which are worn day in and day out, until they are patched and repaired so many times they can no longer serve their purpose. Imagine the feel of the rough linen against your skin, softened by countless washes and years of wear. Although the burden was great, there was also a certain acceptance. You were taught that the pharaoh was a living god, an intermediary between humans and the gods. Serving him, paying taxes, and working on his projects was a religious act, a way to maintain the cosmic order Mahat and ensure the prosperity of Egypt. This belief gave meaning to your hard work, making it part of a greater purpose. There are no windows, or perhaps just a small, high opening to allow for a sliver of light and a hint of ventilation, but not enough to let in the harsh glare or the ever-present sand. The doorway is typically a simple opening, perhaps covered by a woven mat or a piece of cloth to keep out insects and dust. There's no elaborate door, no lock, just a simple entrance that welcomes in the meager light and the occasional breeze. The air inside, though cooler than outside, is often heavy with the smell of cooking, of human bodies, and of the dry earth itself. The presence of huge state granaries, where grain was stored after taxes were collected, also provided a certain sense of security. During times of famine or crop failure, the state could distribute a portion of the grain to prevent widespread starvation. While this was not a social welfare system in the modern sense, it did show a degree of state responsibility to the population, at least to maintain stability. One unique detail about entertainment for the poor is the importance of religious festivals. While these were primarily solemn occasions for worship and offerings, they also provided rare opportunities for communal feasting, music, and dance. During festivals honoring specific gods or celebrating the Nile's inundation, the entire village would participate, transforming the usual monotony of life into a vibrant, shared experience. It's like your biggest annual holiday, but it's also a mandatory church service, and everyone brings a potluck. State control is also expressed through the legal system. While you rarely have access to high courts, local officials and clerks can settle minor disputes in the village. However, their power is supreme, and you are usually expected to accept their decisions, even if you feel they are unfair. This is a system where power flows from top to bottom, and your say is at the bottom. Historians still debate the extent of body odor and general cleanliness standards among the poor. While texts from the elite often emphasize elaborate bathing rituals and perfumed oils, the archaeological evidence for common people is less clear. Was the level of personal hygiene truly effective in preventing disease, or was it more about cultural norms and comfort? The academic discussion grapples with the gap between prescriptive texts and the practical realities of daily life for the majority of the population. It's like trying to figure out how often people actually showered based on a single advertisement for fancy soap. Another unique detail is the role of inspection teams or survey teams that are sent out periodically to assess land productivity and ensure that no one is cheating on taxes. These teams will go through the villages, inspect the land, and compare it with previous records. Their presence is a constant reminder of state oversight and the need to comply. It's like having a surprise tax audit every year, but they come to your house and check everything. Historians still debate the extent of organized public entertainment accessible to the poor. While there might have been occasional traveling performers, jugglers, or acrobats who visited larger towns, were these truly accessible to the average peasant farmer? The evidence suggests that most entertainment for the poor was informal, communal, and self-generated, rather than paid performances. The academic discussion grapples with the limited textual evidence from the perspective of the lower classes, making it difficult to fully reconstruct their leisure activities. It's like trying to figure out what people did for fun, based only on the advertisements for fancy concerts. This system, though harsh on the poor, was extremely effective in sustaining a civilization that lasted for millennia. It allowed the pharaoh to mobilize vast resources to build great structures, maintain an army, and support a large class of nobles and priests. You were an integral part of this system, a small but important cog in the great Egyptian machine. Despite the hardships, there is a remarkable resilience. You learn to live with chronic conditions, to push through pain, and to find strength in your community. You rely on each other, sharing remedies, offering comfort, and helping to care for the sick. The human spirit, even in the face of constant physical challenges, finds ways to endure. This control also shaped social relationships. You learn to respect and fear those in power, from the scribes to the high officials. You understood that your survival depended on following the rules and not causing trouble. This was a society where obedience was a virtue, and rebellion was rarely rewarded. Ultimately, the burden of taxes and forced labor was an inescapable part of your life. It shaped your work, your meals, and even your dreams. It was a constant reminder of your place in the social order, and of the absolute power of the pharaoh. Games of skill and chance are also played. Men might engage in wrestling or other physical contests, testing their strength and agility. Board games, though simpler than those played by the elite, might be carved into the earth or on flat stones, providing a quiet challenge for a few players. These games offer a brief escape from the realities of labor, a chance to engage your mind or body in a different way. So as the night fell and the outside world settled into a peaceful sleep, you might reflect on the heavy realities of taxes and state control over the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life shaped by the pharaoh's relentless demands, by the oversight of his scribes, and by the burden of forced labor. It was a life of obedience and resilience, a testament to the human spirit's ability to survive under a system of strict control. And as you fall asleep, you can picture numbers written on papyrus, giant blocks of stone being dragged away, and the whispers of a world controlled by a supreme power. As the numbers written on papyrus and the whispers of a controlled world settle in your mind, and the burden of taxes and forced labor becomes acutely felt, your mind now turns to another, less tangible but equally important aspect: hope and everyday resilience. For you, a poor ancient Egyptian, life is a constant series of trials, but even in the harshest of circumstances, the human spirit finds glimmers of light, reasons to continue, and ways to maintain its dignity. The sun, while a source of life, also poses a constant threat to your skin. Without modern sun protection, your skin is constantly exposed to its harsh rays, leading to sunburn, premature aging, and skin damage. You might wear a simple head covering, or use the aforementioned oils, but the relentless sun is an unavoidable part of your existence. Imagine yourself standing in a field at the end of a long day, sweat dripping, muscles aching. But as you see the new green shoots emerging from the dark silt, a sense of hope creeps into your heart. This is more than just a crop. This is the promise of food, of survival. Belief in the cycle of regeneration of the Nile, in the blessings of the gods, and in your own ability to work and create life is a powerful source of motivation. It is a universal historical truth. Reliance on agriculture profoundly shaped the Egyptian mindset and hope. It is as if you believed that after every harsh winter, spring would always come, bringing new things. The rhythm of your life is so closely tied to the sun and the Nile that your free time is often dictated by these natural forces. During the heat of the midday sun, or when the fields are fallow, you might find moments for rest, for social interaction, or for simple crafts. This inherent connection to nature means your leisure is often a natural extension of your environment, rather than a separate, scheduled activity. Your resilience is not blind stubbornness. It is an acceptance of reality, combined with an iron will to survive. You know that life is hard, that you have little control over larger forces like the floods of the Nile or the decrees of the pharaoh. But you control your attitude, you control your hard work, and you control your love for your family. This resilience is not a single act of heroism, it is a daily choice. A quiet perseverance, personal hygiene, despite the lack of modern plumbing, is surprisingly important. You bathe regularly, often in the Nile itself, or using water carried from the river in pottery jars. Imagine the cool, refreshing feel of the water on your skin after a long, dusty day in the fields. You might use a simple abrasive paste made from natron, a natural salt or ash as a form of soap, rubbing it over your skin to remove dirt and sweat. This daily ritual of cleansing is not just about comfort. It's also about preventing skin infections and keeping cool in the oppressive heat. Family and community are the mainstays of your hope and resilience. In your small home, you find warmth, love, and unfailing support. You share meals, work, and burdens. When a family member falls ill, the whole village comes together to help. When a harvest fails, neighbors share what they have. This bond, a common historical truth, is your only safety net, an indispensable source of spiritual and material strength. It is like knowing that no matter what happens, you will always have family and friends by your side. The contrast with the entertainment of the wealthy is stark. Nobles and pharaohs enjoyed elaborate banquets with professional musicians, dancers, and acrobats. They hunted in vast preserves, played complex board games like Senet on intricately carved boards, and attended lavish ceremonies. For you, such spectacles are unimaginable, existing only in the distant rumors carried by traders or the grand depictions on temple walls. Religious festivals, though infrequent, are bright spots in your otherwise monotonous life. They provide rare opportunities to play, sing, dance, and celebrate with your community. You can forget about your troubles for a while, immerse yourself in the vibrant atmosphere, and feel connected to the gods and your fellow human beings. These festivals are a common historical fact, providing psychological and spiritual relief, a necessary recharging of energy to continue life. It is like you look forward to the holidays, so you can relax and recharge. Belief in the afterlife is also a great source of hope. Although your present life is full of hardship, you believe that a better life awaits you in the reed fields. This is a lush paradise where you will no longer have to endure poverty, disease, or hard labor. You will be reunited with your deceased loved ones and continue an ideal agricultural life in eternal peace. This hope, a unique detail that is often overlooked, gives meaning to your present sufferings, turning them into a stepping stone to a better future. It is as if you believe that all your efforts in this life will be rewarded in a better place. One fascinating, perhaps lesser-known detail is the use of depilation. While often associated with the elite, even some poor Egyptians would remove body hair, particularly for hygiene reasons, to reduce the risk of lice and keep cool. This might be done using simple bronze razors, flint blades, or even sugar-based waxes. It highlights a surprising attention to personal grooming, even among those with limited resources, driven by practical concerns rather than just aesthetics. It's like having a very ancient, very painful, but effective waxing routine. Historians still debate the extent to which belief in the afterlife actually eases the burden of present life for the poor. Was it a form of spiritual opium to maintain obedience? Or was it a genuine source of inner strength that allowed them to endure and persevere? The scholarly discussion is still trying to understand the complexity of the relationship between faith, oppression, and human resilience in ancient societies. It's like trying to figure out whether a person was truly happy with their job, or if they were just trying to get through the days. Despite the limited opportunities, there is a quiet dignity in the ways you find joy. The laughter of your children, the shared stories around the fire, the simple music of a flute. These are the moments that enrich your life, providing emotional sustenance in a world that offers little material luxury. You learn to appreciate the small things, to find happiness in connection and community, rather than in possessions or grand spectacles. Stories and legends told around the fire in the evening were also a source of hope and entertainment. You heard about heroic gods, great pharaohs, and tales of justice and victory. These stories were not just for entertainment. They were a way to impart values, encourage courage, and remind you that even in the darkest of times, there are stories of triumph. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the relentless reality of health and disease for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life of constant vulnerability, shaped by parasitic invaders, environmental hazards, and a diet of bare necessity. It was a life of physical endurance and quiet suffering, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure in the face of overwhelming challenges. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the faint ache in your bones, a distant echo of a body tirelessly toiling under the ancient sun, always battling the unseen enemies that sought to claim it. Adapting to harsh environments is also a testament to your resilience. You learn to read the signs of the Nile, to make use of every resource, and to cope with the scorching heat of the desert. You don't fight against nature, you live in harmony with it, finding harmony in its eternal cycles. This is a universal historical truth. Adaptability has helped the Egyptians survive for millennia. One fascinating, perhaps lesser-known detail is the importance of riddles and proverbs in their oral tradition. These short, witty sayings and puzzles were not just for entertainment. They were a way of transmitting wisdom, teaching moral lessons, and sharpening the mind. You might engage in a friendly riddle contest with your neighbors, testing your wits and enjoying the camaraderie. It highlights a form of intellectual play that was accessible to everyone, regardless of literacy. It's like having a very ancient, very low-tech version of a trivia night. Although you have no say in the big decisions of the state, you still find small ways to assert your autonomy. Maybe it's the way you grow a particular vegetable in your garden, or the way you decorate a simple ceramic vase. These small acts, unique details that are often overlooked, are ways for you to express your personality and creativity in a world full of rules and restrictions. It's like wearing a pair of brightly colored socks under your boring uniform. The social aspect of hygiene is also important. Bathing in the Nile, washing clothes, and grooming are often communal activities, providing opportunities for social interaction and gossip. Women gather at the riverbank, sharing news and stories while performing their daily chores. This blend of necessity and social ritual makes hygiene a more integrated part of community life. Acceptance of fate. An aspect of belief in Ma'at, the cosmic order, also brings a kind of peace. You understand that there are things beyond your control, and accepting them can free you from constant worry. This doesn't mean you don't try. It means you focus on what you can control: hard work, kindness, and dedication to family and community. The presence of the gods in your daily life is also a source of comfort. You believe that they are watching over you, and that your simple prayers will be heard. This brings a sense of protection, a belief that you are not alone in your struggles. The social aspect of entertainment is paramount. There are no solitary pursuits, no individual hobbies in the modern sense. Your leisure is almost always shared, reinforcing the strong communal bonds that are essential for survival. You find joy in the company of others, in shared laughter, and in the collective experience of storytelling and celebration. Ultimately, your hope and resilience are not abstract concepts. They are embodied in every seed you sow, in every drop of sweat you shed, in every laugh your children make, and in every prayer you whisper. They are the invisible threads that weave the tapestry of your life, giving meaning and strength to your existence. Hair care is simple and practical. Men often keep their hair short or shave their heads, especially if they are laborers, to prevent lice and keep cool. Women might wear their hair longer, often braided, but it would be kept clean and tidy. Combs, made from wood or bone, are used to remove tangles and any unwelcome visitors. While the wealthy might wear elaborate wigs, for you, simplicity and practicality are key. It's like having a permanent buzz cut, which is great for summer, but less so for bad hair days. So as the night falls and the outside world falls into a peaceful sleep, you can reflect on the profound realities of hope and resilience for the poor in ancient Egypt. It is a life shaped by constant challenges, but also illuminated by a belief in the cycle of rebirth, the power of community, and the simple joys of everyday life. It is a life of relentless perseverance, a testament to the ability of the human spirit to find light even in the darkest of times. And as you fall asleep, you can envision green shoots emerging from the soil, an eternal promise of life and hope. The festivals, in particular, offer a vital release from the relentless toil. These are times when the normal rules of society might be relaxed, when everyone, from the lowliest peasant to the highest official, participates in a shared celebration of the gods and the bounty of the Nile. For a brief period, the rigid social hierarchy might soften, allowing for a collective experience of joy and spiritual renewal. Despite the challenges, there is a quiet dignity in your efforts to maintain cleanliness. It is a small act of control in a life largely dictated by external forces. It is a way of caring for yourself and your family, of presenting a respectable appearance within your community, and of striving for comfort in a world that offers little in the way of luxury. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the simple, yet profound, realities of education and entertainment for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life of practical learning, dictated by necessity, and of humble pleasures, found in the warmth of community and the timeless art of storytelling. It was a life without grand spectacles, but rich in human connection, a testament to the enduring spirit's ability to find meaning and joy even in the most challenging circumstances. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the soft melody of a flute, the quiet laughter of children, and the comforting hum of a world finding its simple joys under the ancient stars. One fascinating, perhaps lesser-known detail is the evidence of skeletal stress markers found in the remains of ancient Egyptian peasants. These markers, visible on bones, show the physical toll of their labor-thickened muscle attachments, healed fractures, and signs of degenerative joint disease. These silent testimonies from the past provide a grim, tangible record of the physical hardships they endured, a common historical fact that brings their struggles to life. It's like your bones telling a very long, very painful story about your life. As the laughter of children and the simple melodies of flutes have subsided in your peaceful village, and the small joys of everyday life have been found, your mind now turns to a deeper, all-encompassing aspect of existence, religious belief, and the afterlife. For you, the poor ancient Egyptian, the gods are not distant, abstract entities. Oh no, they are present in every breath you take, in every grain of wheat you sow, and in every ray of sunlight that shines. And as you imagine the simple religious practices and the hopes of life after death, you begin to understand how faith brings meaning and comfort in a challenging world. So, as the night deepens and the world outside settles into a quiet slumber, you can reflect on the simple yet essential realities of clothing and hygiene for the poor in ancient Egypt. It was a life of linen garments, daily washes, and constant battles against dust and flies. It was a life of ingenuity and adaptability, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to find comfort and maintain dignity in the face of relentless environmental challenges. And as you drift off to sleep, you might just imagine the soft rustle of linen, the cool feel of water on your skin, and the quiet hum of a world striving for cleanliness under the ancient sun. Imagine you are standing on the banks of the Nile at dawn, a golden light beginning to envelop the landscape. You clasp your hands, bow your head in reverence, and silently pray to Ra, the sun god, who brings light and life to the world. For you, Ra is more than a god above. He is the everyday force you feel on your skin, the energy that makes plants grow. Your beliefs are an integral part of your daily life, a historical truth common to all Egyptians. You do not need elaborate temples or elaborate rituals to connect with the gods. Their presence is felt in every aspect of nature and your work.